Welcome to this video! Have you ever wondered how to make a bunch of money in Stardew Valley in your first year? Well, I have, and that's why I looked up some tutorials on the topic, and the first one I found was the one I'm going to link to. Is a Reddit post that was posted 3 years ago, so it's a bit old, but I found it pretty useful. So I'm going to go through it right now. Starting with spring, Day 1. This is honestly a day you can start by clearing a small plot of land right in front of your house. Just get the most basic amount of space you can, preferably about 25 plots or so. If you really want to be efficient and plan ahead, make a 3x3 plot with the middle empty for your quality sprinklers later on. You spend the day gathering as much forage as you can from the forest south of your farm and spending all excess energy on cutting down trees in this area specifically. This is because trees automatically respawn in this area, and you will want your farm to grow a bit out of control with your trees at a certain point. It's vital that every day during spring you take the time to look for spring onions at the very bottom of the south forest. Each replenishes 13 energy, and some days you get 15 plus, very rarely there won't be any, or below 5, but it's still well worth the time to go check every day. Well, I think, I don't know, maybe I was just unlucky with the spring onions, but I think I had multiple days where I found very few of them, so maybe they kinda tuned them down a little bit since the tutorial was written, but I think it's still worth doing it. And after you had done that, make it to PRs about 4ish to sell your forage, except for the spring onions, and buy as many potatoes as possible. Run back to your farm and start planting along with the 15 parsnips. Day 2. You should have about 200 wood at this point. I didn't really have that much, but you can still get it on the second day. You will still be able to get all the wood you will need to do the things that the tutorial says on the second day. You need to build a chest to store all your unnecessary tools into to maximize space and water your plant afterwards. Throw in your scythe, watering can, hoe and other items, and keep all your wood. Run back to the forest, get your onions, and get 300 wood. Run through the town, get to the beach, spend the 300 wood to build the bridge to the little island to the side which spawns high-value forage items. This will become part of your routine in addition to the spring onions. Sell the beach forage at the fishery and get more potato seeds if you have had time left. Spend any extra energy on clearing out more space on your farm. Also use your axe to gather as many seeds sticking from the ground as possible to make forager snacks if necessary. I'm not sure about that. I have always used the hoe to get the seeds out of the ground. I think the axe sometimes destroys them, but maybe only the pickaxe does, I'm not sure. But I think the hoe definitely doesn't, so I will use that one. Days 3 to 4. Keep with the routine of getting onions and beach forage items, but make sure to only spend the energy you have and not dip too much into your onions. Wood is still valuable, but not the absolutely necessary. Seeds are the most important. If you have time left in the day, spend it fishing and eat the fish to keep your energy up, and sell all excess fish for more money. Again, do not use your spring onions. The main reason we use these are because they stack and item inventory is very limited at this point. I actually later, when I went mining, sometimes ended up using fish and other random foraged items as food in the mines just to get some extra energy. So I don't think it is absolutely necessary to use the spring onions only, but yeah, they do stack and they are very useful for that. Day 5. You will get the mail that the mines are open and you will want to go there. You want to spend 50 wood to make a chest just outside the elevator to store any items you don't want. You want to spend 50 wood to make a chest just outside the elevator to store any items you don't want to haul back down and clear the inventory space. You should only really have your pickaxe, sword, onions, or forest snacks. Your whole goal is to dive as far down as possible each day for the next 5 days and get as deep as you can. Save as much quartz as you can from this point. Well, I listened to this advice, getting as much quartz as I can. And actually, the place where I bottlenecked was furnaces and smelting in general. My advice is that yeah, you should get all the quartz that you need, but you should also really concentrate on crafting furnaces as soon as you can and starting smelting your especially your iron, quartz, and gold as soon as you can. Because the reason we are doing this whole smelting business is to be able to get quality sprinklers. And in case you don't know, the recipe for quality sprinklers is 1 quartz, 1 iron bar, and one refined quartz, of course. 1 iron bar and 1 gold bar. So yeah, these are the items you want to get. You will also want to get a couple of copper bars for upgrading your tools. So that's my advice in addition to this part of the thing. Day 6. This is your last day to plant potatoes as you won't be able to sell them in time for the festival. Switch to parsnips instead, but don't overload yourself with too many because you will waste energy and you will spend like all your day watering them and run out of energy and like you won't have enough time to mine, which is important for later on. I once did this run where I planted all these parsnips and I'm just like expanding my field with parsnips throughout the entire spring and it became really overwhelming. So don't do that. Plant as many as you feel like you're comfortable with and let's move on. Also note that you can't sell to PR during the festivals, so don't plan on squeaking out a few extra bucks. All crops should be done by the 12th, unless you pick up cauliflower from Gunther, which is a good idea either way. Yeah, you can go to the museum and pick up these cauliflowers. I think you don't need many items. You need to give 5 items to Gunther to get 9 cauliflowers. I think I've done that mostly by opening geodes and giving the useless minerals that you would otherwise just sell to Gunther. You can do that too, or you can give him gems, or you can give him the like random ancient artifacts that you find digging up the little wormy things that you see on the ground sometimes. But it does worth it. So do that at some point. You don't need to do it like by day 6 because cauliflowers take like I think 12 days to grow or 13. So you can do it later when you have a little more time. I think if you're doing this kind of make as much money as you can challenge or something like that, then your time is very very tight at the beginning. You have a very strict schedule of gathering food and then going to mine and then doing it again. So maybe going to the museum is not something you feel like you can do at this point, but yeah, doing it at some point in the spring is very useful because it's free cauliflowers and they sell for I think 80 gold each. So that's 9 times 80. That's like 720 gold for free. Or for the amount of money you would have made if you sold those minerals or gems or random artifacts. It's probably worth it. Moving on, day 7 to 12. Keep up with your farm onions forage. I might actually skip the beach for a day or two at a time because respawns take a while. But go immediately to the mines afterward and dive as deep as you can. If you see a ladder, take it. Unless there is a gem node, then grab that first. After every 5 levels, you should be dumping all your items that aren't necessary into the chest and immediately going back down. Your aim every time when you go down is to make at least another 5 levels to unlock the next elevator. Your goal every day should be to get at least another 5 levels, preferably 10. And then every 5 levels you take the elevator up, dump your stuff in the chest and head back down. And this will end up saving you like so many little items that add up to a lot of money in the end. So definitely take this advice still in the current updates. Put a chest next to the elevator, head back up every 5 levels, and just get all the items that you can. Don't throw away like a topaz to get a ruby or something, because you don't need to. Also worth noting that after day 8, you should stop planting items altogether and just focus on what you have currently growing. By day 12, if you have been making good progress, you should be around level 50 to 60 in the mines, and at this point you should drop every gem you have, unless you want to keep a few as gift, into the selling chest, that's where you should drop them, and get as much gold for it as possible. Because now we are getting to day 13, and that's the day of the Egg Festival, and that's what we have been gathering money for all this time. What you're going to do this day is get up and look at your gold, and then calculate how many strawberry seeds you can buy. They cost 100 gold each, so you just divide your money by 100. And that's how many plots you should make, preferably again in this 3x3 pattern, and water them, and then go to the festival. Now you talk to Pierre and get as many strawberry seeds as you can, and after the festival you plant these seeds. You can do the festival event, by the way, if you want a nice hat. I always get the hat, because like, why not? So yeah, then after the festival you plant your strawberries in the pre-watered soil, then you go to bed, and if you haven't diverted at all from the plan, at this point you should have about 100 strawberries. I'm not sure how much I had at this point, but you can get a lot. The rest of the month, keep focusing on growing through your routines and going to the mines up until you see the berry bushes start blooming. The berry bushes blooming, like salmonberry season, is from the 15th to the 18th, so you can prepare for that. That's when you should really go out and gather all the berries you can. These things are everywhere. If you go every day while they are blooming, you will have over 200. Again, I don't think I had that much. Maybe again I got unlucky or skipped a few, or they tuned them down since then. I think I had like a bit over 100, like between 100 and 115, but you can get a lot, and they only spawn for a few days, as I said, from the 15th to the 18th. And if you pick them as soon as you see them, some bushes will bloom 2 times instead of just 1. They spawn all over town, and if you need to cut into your mining time a bit, just do it. You won't have to worry about energy at all afterwards, so it's well worth your time you invest in it. That I can confirm. Like, even though I think I didn't get 200, it was totally worth it, and I By the time I ran out of them, I had access to like way better fruits. So this will last you a very, very long time if you get them. Now, after that, you keep focusing on your farm and mining. You should have 3 to 5 furnaces at this point, smelting all your ores. As I said, that's where I bottlenecked, and I before this point, I kind of didn't really concentrate on smelting and building furnaces at all. But if you are doing it, you should do it from the very beginning. Like as soon as you get the recipe for the furnace, you should start crafting furnaces and smelting a little bit of copper, but mainly iron and quartz and gold. It's a good idea to plan the items you will need for the bundles if you are doing the community center. If you're doing Georgia Mart, it doesn't matter because the whole tutorial is about how to get like an insane amount of money. But if you are doing the community center, you should plan, except if you want to ignore the community center for the first year, which is also a viable option. Like, if I remember correctly, you don't need to complete any community center bundles for completing this tutorial. Don't really need to go to the desert. But one thing that I would definitely get from the community center if you're doing that is the minecart, the boiler room bundle, because you're going to spend most of your time mining and you will have all of the things that are needed for that, and it's pretty easy to complete. I think the easiest one. And and you get the minecarts, and those save you a bunch of time. And all you need to do that is a copper bar, a iron bar, a gold bar, and you will need a quartz, a fire quartz, an earth crystal, and a frozen tear, and 2 of 99 slimes, and 10 bat wings, and the solar essence and the void essence. I pretty much always do the solar essence and the void essence. So yeah, that's all you need, and you only need one of each things, and you can spare that one thing for getting the minecarts. You also get a furnace, and I don't know what, gout, or I think a magnet ring, small magnet ring is the third thing you get. So that one is worth completing. The other ones I don't really think give you anything super useful. But yeah, you can start planning for it if you want to. Planting beans and one of each of the spring planting items is probably a good idea, because if you don't do it now, you won't be able to get them until the next spring. About the 5 quality parsnips, it says that you can just get the corn, melons, and pumpkins, and that's more practical because later on you won't have to worry that much about space. Now you can get the backpack upgrades as soon as you have the money, and then you can spend the money on the copper pickaxe. After you hit level 80 in the mines, things get a little tougher, but try to get to level 90 as fast as possible for the sword upgrade you get there, and then to level 100 for the star drop. Level 110 also gives you a nice pair of boots with 4 plus, but it's not extremely important. Focus on gold and planning out what you need most to make the most quality sprinklers. If you need coal, spend level 45 per 55 and kill the dust spirits. You will want to do this sooner rather than later anyways, because they give you a ring later when you kill 500 of them. That gives you more drops from creatures, and they are by far the easiest way of getting coal. By the way, after you get this burglar's ring for killing 500 dust spirits, you basically won't ever have to worry about coal because they are going to give you way more coal than you are using. Unless you want to like craft a bunch of preserve jars or something that requires a ton of coal. If you are just using it for smelting and making up bombs and stuff like that, Burglar's Ring is amazing, and uh, and yeah, you will get a bunch of coal. If you need iron, spam level 40, and if you need gold, spam level 80. And spamming in this latest update, not the latest is 0.14. I think it changed in 0.13, the multiplayer update. Um, thing about it is, it used to be, when the tutorial was written, that mine levels would just reset immediately you left them. But now they don't always do that. Sometimes, back in the day, what people used to do, this spamming level 45 per 55, is they would take the elevator to level 45 and kill all the dust spirits, then take it to level 55, kill all the dust spirits, then go back to level 45 and kill all the dust spirits again. Now, in update 13 and 14, you cannot do that. This jumping between two levels, you need to go out of the mine, and I think you even need to wait until 10 minutes in game pass, and then you can go back, and then the levels are reset by then. So that's how you spam levels in the latest updates. It's a little slower than it used to be, I think, but you can still do it and you can get a lot of materials, and it's probably still easier to spam levels than to go through all of the levels one by one. So do that if you need one of the raw materials that are mentioned. Moving on. By around day 21, you should be well into the caverns and have gotten level 6 farming. I think when it says caverns here, it means the normal mines and not skull caverns, because I don't think you will have enough money to open the boss by day 21. And yeah, and you need level 6 farming. This is where that 3x3 grid is going to come in. After your first harvest, you should have about 12 to 15k and have anywhere from 10 to 15 sprinklers. At this point, I hope you can see where this is going and just continue mining for more ores and constantly adding sprinklers to your farm. If you really want to get ahead of the game, start saving acorns too for oak tar later, when you need to make cakes. Now, I think this wasn't really obvious to me when I first read it, but based on my experience, I think it means that you will reach level 6 farming after your first harvest, because that's when you are going to get enough XP to reach level 6 farming, and then you will go to sleep. You will get the recipe for the sprinklers, and the next day you will scrap the sprinklers, and that's when you are going to have the 10, 15 or whatever amount it said. But moving on. The last day of spring, do a count of your sprinklers and multiply it by 8 to see how many seeds you need. If you OCD, your farm will be mostly untilled, except for the repeat harvest crops, and you won't have a symmetrical harvest unless you take out of the sprinklers and put them back on the first. You will not have enough time to both till and water your crops on the first, so choose if you want symmetry or not. Also put something like flooring or stone path under the sprinklers, so later on the upgraded hoe won't knock them off, saving you some time. Actually, one thing that I also did in the spring is I upgraded both my hoe and my watering can. And in my experience, if you do that, in the summer you will totally be able to both hoe and water the ground before planting your blueberries. So that's what I did. If you do what I think the writer of the tutorial thought you would do, which is not upgrading your hoe or watering can or neither, then you will need to do what he says is have either an asymmetrical farm. Half your farm is growing a little later, well, not a little, exactly a day later than the other half. Or you do the take out the sprinklers the day before and then putting it back thing. But as I said, if you go the upgrade your hoe and the watering can route like I did, then this just won't be an issue at all. What I also found is that money, the amount of money. Okay, so let me phrase it this way. The amount of sprinklers that I had was the bottleneck and not really the money. So in the summer, I would have been able to buy a lot more seeds still, but I just didn't have the sprinklers to water them, and I didn't want to water them by hand. So my point is, I was like spending some money to buy the upgrades for the hoe and watering can is not that much of an issue, at least compared to getting enough sprinklers and getting enough mining and smelting done. Again, so my bottleneck in this spring was the smelting. I had a ton of ores and iron and gold and quartz sitting in a chest with a bunch of coal, and I just couldn't smelt them because I didn't have the furnace capacity and I didn't have the time. So in this like last 8 to 10 days of spring, I actually sometimes went back to mine copper to make more furnaces to be able to smelt more things. But even so, I think if I started smelting earlier, I could have done a lot more. So that's it for spring. We're going to continue it with summer.